So no teasers today, no headlines, just trust me, you're going to enjoy this one. It's sharp, it's surprising, and honestly, I had a lot of fun putting this one together. And also, by popular demand, the Bagel Bite section is officially back. And today's question, honestly, I'll be surprised if you guess it. My friends, this is Daily Bagel. If this show puts a smile on your dial, drop a like, hit subscribe, and send this to someone who should be watching too. Now, with all that out the way, let's get into it. So the ANC wants to expand the GNU. That's the Government of National Unity, which is this multi-party pact formed after no one won the past election outright. So think of it as trying to run a country by putting all your political rivals in the same room and asking them to vote on everything together. Naturally, it hasn't been smooth sailing. So tensions hit a boiling point a couple weeks back after President Ramaphosa fired a DA deputy minister. Now, in response, the DA threatened to vote against any ANC budget and pulled out of national talks, which was a move seen by some in the ANC as just the last straw. So now the ANC's NEC, which is their highest decision-making body, has decided to bring in more parties into the coalition, and they've already begun talks with the likes of Action SA and the NCC. But here's the catch. Some of these new parties don't want to share space with the DA. So now, as a result of all this political drama, the ANC is essentially trying to play it both ways. They're trying to keep the DA in the GNU to avoid market chaos, but they also want to widen the tent. And the message to the DA seems to be pretty clear. If you won't leave, we'll make it uncomfortable until you do. In just 4 years, Chinese e-commerce giants Temu and Shein have pulled off what usually takes more than a decade. They have grabbed nearly 4% of South Africa's clothing and retail market, worth over 7 billion rand. But that rapid rise has also triggered alarm bells. So a new report by the Localization Support Fund says that these two platforms have already displaced roughly 8,000 local jobs and warns that if current trends continue, that number could hit 35,000 by the end of the decade. The real issue here, though, according to this report, is that while sales are booming, the money isn't circulating locally. So we have billions of rands exiting our economy. They're bypassing South African factories, warehouses, and workers, and they're heading straight offshore. So as we've seen this year, SARS has started plugging the gaps, imposing VAT and duties on small parcels. But analysts say that this isn't enough. They said the real problem here is scale. We have thousands of tiny shipments, too fast and too cheap for customs to keep up. So some say that the solution is stricter regulation to protect local jobs. Others, though, insist that a free market must be left to run its course. Either way, though, these platforms have already punched a 7 billion rand hole in our economy, and they are still growing. And now some news on the economic front. And look, if you usually skip the finance stuff, hold up. I'm going to explain this simply because it is important to understand. So South Africa's Reserve Bank has decided to lower its inflation target to 3%. But Treasury says that it wasn't consulted. Now, that's a problem here because in economic terms, the Reserve Bank handles monetary policy. So that's stuff like interest rates, while Treasury controls fiscal policy. That's like spending, borrowing, and taxes. And when those two aren't aligned, things get messy. So this new inflation target set by the Reserve Bank could mean keeping interest rates higher in the short term, which affects everything from car loan and home repayments to the price of groceries and petrol. Now, Treasury had been working off a 4.5% inflation target, and suddenly adjusting that now to 3% could throw off all their budget planning. And so that's why S&P Global, which is this leading market intelligence and ratings agency, has started sounding the alarm. They warn that when fiscal and monetary policies pull in different directions, it becomes harder to balance the budget, attract investments, or keep inflation expectations anchored. So rounding it up in simple terms, when two of South Africa's most important economic institutions stop working in sync, markets get nervous, and it's the country that pays the price. And before we jump into our Bagel Bite of the day, here's a few other headlines worth knowing. For starters, Capitec has partnered with Mama Money to launch low-cost money transfers across Africa, so migrant workers can now send cash home through the Capitec app at fees starting from 5% with delivery in minutes. A proposed US minerals deal by Sibanye and other business leaders has sparked some backlash from government, with the mining minister saying he's been left feeling sidelined. Now, this fallout points to a long-standing tension between state and private over who sets South Africa's Africa's mining strategy. And the JSE has posted a 13% rise in profits and a 14% increase in operating income for the first half of 2025, driven by strong equity activity and solid progress on its multi-year tech upgrade. And on to the long-awaited return of the Bagel Bite of the day. Let's see what you got. The question is, what was the first animal to be cloned in South Africa? Was it A, a goat, B, a cow, or C, a sheep? Bonus points if you know its name. And on to our wildcard section. Tucked along the wild coast near Coffee Bay, there's a rock formation so strange it almost feels fake. It's this freestanding cliff with a clean hole cut straight through the middle. And believe it or not, it's called the Hole in the Wall. So geologists say it was formed when softer rock eroded beneath a tougher cliff face. But Bossa legend tells of a sea people who carved their way through the opening to reach a woman trapped behind the wall. And when the tide's high enough and the waves hit hard enough, it still echoes like someone trying to break through. Now, one of the coolest ways to get there is you can hike this 8-kilometer coastal trail from Coffee Bay, and it's pretty steep in parts, but the views are wild. We're talking rolling hills, sea cliffs, cows on the beach, classic Eastern Cape. There's no entrance gate, no fanfare, just cliffs, tide pools, and a coastline that hasn't changed in a millennia. And as for that Bagel Bite, the first animal ever cloned in South Africa was a cow named Futi. It happened all the way back in 2003 near Brits in the Northwest. Her name, by the way, means again in Zulu, which is either deeply symbolic or just the least creative name ever given to a genetic copy. And my friends, that's it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed putting it together. You know, in the end, what we're trying to achieve here with news is we're trying to be insightful and easy to understand without oversimplifying things and also making it a little bit fun. And I hope it's certainly feeling that way for you guys. I hope you will have a great Thursday, and we'll check you all tomorrow for the final Daily Bagel Show of the week. It's going to be a goodie. I'll catch you guys all then. Cheers.